All right, you've heard of the kid in the candy store, Malcolm in the liquor store. We are talking about National Bourbon Heritage Month, and that means it is time to celebrate all things bourbon. It's a very classy drink, or at least it can be, but we'll learn more about that as our favorite drink expert, Nick Britsky, teaches us about the finer points of bourbon. Yes. The first misconception, I thought bourbon could only be made in Kentucky.
No, they actually made a law, and it's anywhere in the U.S. So as long as we have a crazy trade agreement with your country, bourbon comes from the U.S.
So break down the difference between bourbon, whiskey, and Scotch, because they all seem to be similar, although if you really taste them, they're completely different.
Correct. So anything made from a grain is a whiskey. If you're made with 51% corn, you're a bourbon. If you're made from 51% barley, you're a Scotch. You can also do rye, you can do wheat. There's all those designations.
Yeah, because the rye is north of the border, or south of the border, technically speaking. It's in Canada, basically.
Right.
So rye whiskey is Canadian, typically.
With the rye. So
with the
you have
rye.
Whatever is the majority grain, that's what makes the name. So all of these are corn-based, 51% makes them a bourbon.
So talk about, I guess, the Michigan bourbons, because now that I know bourbon can be made any place, then clearly we have some great products here. Tell me about Michigan bourbon.
Yeah, so right down the road from me is Motor City Gas. They have a bourbon they came out with a couple years ago up in Traverse City. They have a couple different varieties. You can go on the west side with the Brewer's whiskey, and then out in Lansing, they actually make a oated whiskey. So this is bourbon, but they have a little bit of oats in here, so it kind of has this nice, fun oat taste to it.
Now, some of these are top shelf. Do you want to mix those, or do you drink it neat? I typically drink neat. Sometimes on the rocks if it's like Booker's and it's stronger. What's the best way?
It's all what you're comfortable with. So a lot of these are kind of mid-shelf. We got some top shelf over here. If you want to make a high-end cocktail like they do at some of the bigger places like Sugar House in Oakland, they're going to use a top shelf spirit because, again, you're putting garbage in, garbage out. You want a good cocktail, you want to use a good spirit. Now, something like this, if you're going to drop $60+, I would probably say, let's go straight.
Okay.
If you want to add some ice, you can totally do that. Again, whatever's good with you. They actually make water you can buy from Kentucky, so you can have
that.
Yeah, you can have that experience. You can make really quality ice because as that ice melts, you're going to add a lot to it. So you want something totally
subtleties
neutral.
that will change.
Exactly.
So you've heard about bourbon. You've watched Mad Men. You think you want to drink bourbon. Where do you start?
You know what? Go Michigan. Michigan's doing a great job, but I mean, there's some very budget ones as well. Something like a Buffalo Trace is great. Bullet is great. You're going to get these for under $40. These guys are definitely under $50. Again, if you want to jump and go something crazy, grab it. Any of these you see them in the store, they're a little harder to get, but they're going to be worth the investment because it'll keep their value. Now,
are they going to be stronger, like the alcohol percentage? Is there a difference as far as the less expensive bourbons versus the more expensive? Because I know Booker is like 50% alcohol, and that just like all but cauterizes as it goes down.
It all depends on the quality of the distiller. All these are going to be at least 40%, but as you go up, they're going to go to 50, 60. It just depends. Sometimes you can have a really high proof, and it's not going to burn because of a good quality distiller.
All right, so any other advice as I go and get me a bottle today?
Again, make some nice good ice cubes, get yourself a sipping glass. You can get a Glencairn so you can drink it neat, or you can get a rocks glass. Tons of different things you can read. There's magazines out there to learn more. I mean, you can educate yourself and still have a good time doing it.
All right. Excellent advice. You need more bourbon in your life.